People or groups to move up or down in status based on wealth, jobs or education. Today a House of Lords committee has put out a report looking at the social mobility of school leavers and their path into employment. They say that more than half of teens who don't head down a traditional academic route into work are being let down by the education system, and that the 53% of school leavers who opt not to go to university or do A-levels are often allowed to drift into their first job or further education with no real prospect of progression or social mobility. A possible solution to this is argued to be letting teenagers decide earlier whether to follow a mainly vocational or academic path. But would that work? Well, we can speak now to Hashim Mohammed, who arrived in London in 1993 as a child refugee from Somalia. He is now an Oxford-educated barrister. Now, Basha Manju works at youth employment charity Elevation Networks, which aims to help underprivileged teenagers gain social mobility. Andrew Kingston is 18 and has completed an apprenticeship. He landed his first job as a web and social media administrator. Ali Rashid is also 18 years old and studies performing arts. He's an aspiring actor. Laine In Bbc is a 17-year-old apprentice in digital marketing. And from Bristol, we're joined by Baroness Jean Corston, Chair of the Lords Select Committee on Social Mobility, and who is responsible for today's report. Thank you very much for joining us, all of you. Baroness Corston, first of all, are you saying social mobility is a myth for many kids?
Well, I'm saying it's not achievable for them, and indeed the evidence is that it's going backwards.
And what are the issues?
Well, there are young people who find that when they leave school they haven't had careers advice because there isn't a career service. They haven't had an opportunity for work experience because they don't have family contacts to make that possible. They're not work ready, they don't have the life skills that will enable them to succeed in the workplace. And if they go into further education, they're in a situation where there is a bewildering array of qualifications, and many of which aren't even understood by employers.
Explain what you mean when you say that for many kids, social mobility is actually going backwards.
Well, the evidence is that in the last, I think it's 10 years, social mobility, which is people from poorer backgrounds who become high earners, has gone down from 17% to 13%. So there is an element of going backwards, and as part of this inquiry, which started last June, we made strenuous efforts, successful, I'm pleased to say, to contact as many young people through social media as possible. And the message from them, and these were people who did feel overlooked and left behind, was that they didn't have those opportunities to be work ready, and at school, following a solely academic path until the age of 18 was very demotivating. So if they had the opportunity to, at 14, do some work experience or vocational work while continuing to do the core subjects like English, maths, science, they felt it would give them a better opportunity for their future.
So explain a bit more how that would work, because you're saying that you think the national curriculum should end at 14. What sort of things could go out the window for some?
Well, how it would operate was obviously for the government. We're making a recommendation to government. What we're saying is, it suited 5 of my grandchildren. It didn't suit one of them, and I saw how he struggled. And if you speak to these people who know they could be high achievers, but are stopped being so, they know what it is that they are missing.
Well, let's talk to the group of people in the studio with me, some of whom obviously, all of them have been through education in one form or another. Andrew, you finished an apprenticeship, you're 18, now got your first job. How do you feel about this debate and how you were helped, or whether you were helped or hindered through your education?
I feel like in education, you're prepared academically for certain aspects, of using computers, learning how to use programs and basic knowledge, but I feel that when you step into the real workplace, you're not given certain skills from school. So like I went straight out to London, and learning how to commute and how to even tell your boss that you're not going to be in and anything like that, you're just not given these certain skills in education. You're just lacking that real life experience. which is why I chose that doing an apprenticeship would be better for me.
Isn't that the same for everyone? How do you think school could address something like that?
I think schools, if they could give you more work experience time, if they could give you more chance to experience work in the real life and workplace, then
Did you get any work experience by school?
I did. I had about 3 weeks in total, but it was just such a rush and so disorganised that you don't really know what you want to do and you don't really know where you want to work, what experience you need. So I just feel like that it needs to be more targeted and more help needs to be given to younger individuals to help target what they want to work in.
Annie, you are studying performing arts, want to be an actor. How do you see this debate?
Well, for me, it's like a 50-50 because at school I never really got work experience until I got to college. So it was all it felt a bit rushed for me. As he said, it felt a little bit rushed for me as well. I think we need more like practical training. Like we need to actually be there to feel it. Because personally, I don't feel that I'm actually ready for like a workplace job or something similar to it.
This is all about whether kids are able to break out of their background and go on to achieve whatever they want to effectively. Have you ever felt constrained by your background?
Well, personally, I've never felt constrained because I feel like it's all about the individual at the end of the day. So if I'm gonna put in 100% effort, I'm gonna get 100% out.
Laine, 17-year-old female apprentice, what has your experience been of school and moving on from there?
I left school at 15, so I didn't get to take all of my GCSEs. I was actually in hospital for 9 months, so by the time I came out, everyone was already in sixth form or college, and I just felt sort of stuck and as if they just dropped me. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, what career I wanted to get into or anything, because I just felt I was unprepared for the situation.
So you didn't feel that school was gearing you up for a world outside of studying?
In terms of everything I've learned from school, I haven't really used or applied any of that in like the working world, I guess, and I just wasn't given the opportunity to sort of work out what I wanted to be instead of thinking about what other people wanted me to be.
Naivasha, you work at a youth employment charity. Do you think that background is still a constraint on ambition? Schools aren't doing enough?
I think that the problem is sometimes that people think that there's a one-size-fits-all solution they want to go into, and another big thing is representation. So a lot of students may not go into particular sectors if they don't see people that look like them who are excelling there. And I also feel like there needs to be more emphasis, as everybody has said, at school on work experience and things like that. I did work experience when I was in year 10 and also in year 12. And I wanted to become a barrister, but after the 2 weeks of working in chambers, I realised I no longer wanted to do it, and that saved me going to university and doing law only to come out and find out that I didn't want to. So, yeah, I thought that's quite important.
Hashi, you are a barrister. You actually arrived as a child refugee from Somalia, so you achieved, obviously, from a very difficult background. Tell us what your story is.
For me, what Baroness Corston has done with this report really represents very important steps about choice in the school system. At the moment, it's clear that a lot of people are not being provided with the choice very early on to be able to make an informed decision about what they want to do. And also, that's also critical now more than ever, because if you're going to university, you're not sure about going to university, and then you do university and you come out with all this debt only to discover that actually that route wasn't for you, is quite difficult. And what Baroness Corston has managed to do with this report is to say, look, the system as it's currently set up isn't assisting the vast majority of people, and it's not giving them that choice. And if they choose not to go down the academic route, do they have the necessary skills to be able to get on and do what they need to do next time? Now, one of the things I see, for example, when I got kids coming to work experience or who might ask me for help, is they are lacking even the most basic things of understanding the issues of being on time, being presentable, understanding how to network better, firm handshakes, eye contact, just following up on friendships, relationships. finding a ways of getting somebody to mentor you. What does that mean? What are you trying to get out of that mentorship? What are your targets? These are the skills that the system just doesn't equip anyone for. And if I just add, and the people who do succeed, it seems, are the people whose parents and whose networks are able to assist them to be able to solidify those kind of things. Most people who are from very poor backgrounds or disadvantaged backgrounds don't have those networks, don't have the father who can ring up somebody.
That's just not true, is it, to say that people only get on in life if their parents give them a leg up the ladder?
That's not what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is that the vast majority of people, especially in this country, especially in the English system, the nepotism and the way in which people help one another, and I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with that, because every parent wants their kid to get on, is skewed against people who don't necessarily have those concepts. I can tell you, myself, my mother was never formally educated, my father never died. At the age of 18, I didn't know what a barrister did, let alone want to be one. And but for the various connections and the options that were given to me by people who mentored me, who assisted me, who introduced me to people, I wouldn't be where I am today. So in this country, more than any other, how you connect yourself, whether through your family or other ways, is so central to being able to succeed.
Baroness Causton, in the end, isn't the best way a state can help any kid to give them the best possible education that they can get? I mean, the alternative argument that could be put to when you say about ending the national curriculum at 14, people might say, well then, in that case, at 14 you're effectively writing off somebody's potential if they choose not to go down an academic route at that stage.
Well, it's quite interesting that you should use the phrase writing off, because I don't think a lot of young people see it that way. People who want to go to Rolls-Royce through an apprenticeship don't think they're being written off. It's just that we, in many ways, don't value this kind of
But is 14
training.
too young for somebody to decide that they don't want to do something that might require a higher level of academic achievement?
Well, that's not my opinion. It's based on all the evidence that we've taken from academics, teachers, over the last nearly a year. And indeed, it was recommended to the previous government, the Blair government in 2004, by Professor Tomlinson, who could see that our system was not assisting social mobility. And your young people have made the case. You know, they want life skills, they want work experience. Work experience is usually related to whether your family knows somebody. And in small and medium-sized enterprises, new jobs often go through that route.
Andrew, did you feel early on that actually sort of something more academic just wasn't for you, and it wasn't?
My father is very academic, and my family, my sister's studying a master's currently, and my brother's training in medicine. So my family are all very academic, but I just feel I was going along the route and I was doing well, especially in business, but everything else was just not working out for me. So I thought maybe the best way of me achieving and my potential, as she speaks about, is just going into that workplace, emphasising those professional skills. And again, the networking scenario, like the company I work for at the moment, the CEO of which, Vanessa Vallali, champions networking. And I feel like, yes, networking does help, but the drive of having your own, motivation to get out there and develop these skills to help you will also be the deciding factor on where you get to. And I think, anyone can decide that they want to be someone, that they want to drive to that, and they want to develop those skills.
Ali, how do you see this? I mean, you were talking earlier about making your own choices and making good on those choices.
Well, it's, as again I said about putting 100%. Well, personally, if I'm gonna put in 100%, I'm gonna definitely obviously get 100%. But it's all about the work rate and work ethic. Like, it's all about the individual. That's what I think.
And Navasha, the thing that people keep coming back to is this issue of networking and actually being able to sort of reach out to people, whether it's in an academic world or another one, to help you. How do kids get that?
I mean, at Elevation Networks, that was the premise of the youth charity being born, to connect students from underrepresented backgrounds and connect them and build their network. So we kind of built the charity on know who and know how. And I feel that networking definitely plays a big part in it, and it's something that at school they should definitely try to push. It's a skill that you're not taught, but it's something that you learn along the way, and I feel like that's just not really encouraged at school, and I think it's quite important, especially once you get in the career as well. A lot of people get promotions and they advance in their career through networking and through talking to people in the organisation, so it's definitely a skill that we can't neglect.
We've got to let you go, Baroness Cotton. I know that you've got to head off somewhere else. We're going to carry on chatting in the studio, but thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, and I thank you to your guests who've made my point.
Thank you very much. Laine, would you say that you've been good at networking? Is it something that...
Well, I've never actually, before having my apprenticeship, I didn't have any experience in even talking to any employers or anything like that. So I feel like if I was encouraged a bit more to sort of get myself out there, then I would probably be in a really good place, a better place, I think. And success is like different for everyone, and everyone has a different way of getting to where they want to be, but schools should maybe try to encourage their teachers to sort of show students what it's like to be in the working world.
Did you feel sort of inside yourself that you knew where you wanted to go and that you would quietly get there, or did you feel like you actually really did need support?
I had no idea that there was even support available, so I was just stuck on what to do. I had to actually look myself, which I feel like young people should be encouraged to look for themselves, because when I was in education, I thought work was going to be handed to me, basically, so I wasn't sure about what I wanted to do, and...
You're nodding there.
No, I agree, and I think I have been lucky where I've got to. You know, I'm now sitting on representing my company in certain meetings in London and all that, networking with quite influential people, and I am lucky in that sense. But I feel like in education it's not taught, these skills aren't taught to people, you know, how to greet someone that might be, you know, very important to your career further down the line. You're not taught how you can cope in these situations, and thankfully I was guided and mentored by my CEO for that. But sitting in a room with like 50 other people who are top bankers in London and everything else, it's quite intimidating.
And when you don't go into higher education, you're entering the world of work at a younger age than other people, so
it
that
can be
must be
quite
pretty...
intimidating as well when you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I'm 18, you're 40 and you've got money everywhere and you're very influential, but you just got to learn to stand your ground in that circumstance and know that you are worth something and that you can get there if you just push yourself for it.
Yeah.
Thank you all. We're out of time, but thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you. Still to come, we will hear the extraordinary story of a woman who was kidnapped